Hey everybody, it's me, Lance Meister, the Undead Viking. I'm here to take some time out of your precious day to tell you about this really cool game that I was sent called The Siblings Trouble. And this is such a cool box. It actually looks like a little book, like an ancient book that you peel out and open up slowly. And inside is actually where all the cards and the dice and everything for this game came from. The Siblings Trouble is a storytelling game. Now, there are many storytelling games out there, and I played quite a few of them. And a storytelling game kind of relies on the imagination and the creativity and the ability for the players to work together to not so much win a game as to enjoy extrapolating an idea for an adventure out of their minds and creating an experience. And it's definitely a different take. It's one of those things where I've kind of, there's games like Fairy Tale and things like that are kind of focused on that, and there's games like Tales of Arabian Nights that there is a game there, but technically it's more of kind of like a choose your own adventure thing. And there's games that Dark Overlord where it's just a bunch of cards and you just kind of you feel like you're throwing stuff against the wall until something sticks, and then you tell a story and it's humorous and what have you. But here we have a game that is really based in, for lack of a better term, in a Goonies world, if you will. And I as a child of the 80s and the 70s, I grew up in that thing when you're in that weird 13, 14 years old age, and you go and you read novels like the Hardy Boys, and if you have no idea what that is, I apologize, but I mean, I read all those books, or you see movies like The Goonies, and it's this idea that as a young adult, you're 14 years old, you're a bunch of explosive energy and creativity, and the idea is that you can shape and mold the world and create, and the world really is fairly adventuresome when you're young. I remember when I was a very small, well, I shouldn't say very small child, but I remember when I was in my early teens, I used to crawl into the gully that was next to my grandparents' house in Washburn, North Dakota, with my father, and he and I would walk up and down this gully with this this stream inside of it, and my mind had tons of stories about all the things that, I carried a stick and it was a sword, and I ran around chasing orcs or goblins or whatever it is. I pretended that I was sword fighting, and I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the process of that story. And when I play with my son and my daughter now, they come up. My son comes up with stories about tank engines and trains, and he tells me them. And my daughter, comes up and she plays Dungeons and Dragons with us, so she becomes up with these long stories with these intricate plots, and I'm amazed by it. And so this game kind of replicates that, if you will. And it is not so much, it is a game, because there are mechanisms to it, and you can lose. But it's more of an impetus, if you will, to create a surrounding or create an experience, create a situation where an adventurous experience can be created, can be molded, shaped on the fly, if you will. So let me show you how the game works and all the cards and what have you, and then we'll come back here and maybe I'll stop my jibber jabbering long enough to kind of tell you why I really enjoyed this, and why I'm glad this game exists, mostly because of the time that I've gotten to play it with my family. Alright, cool, let's do this. I have set up a 4-player game of The Siblings Trouble, and where I'm actually set up the deck already for the adventure, and I will go through how that process is done before I go into the actual gameplay. But I just want to talk about the different components that you're going to be seeing here as I describe how the game is played. Just starting from the top, working my way up. These are the 4 different characters that you can play. Mayhem, Danger, Adventure, and Mischief. Those are the siblings' trouble. Each one of them has a die that they get to roll if the encounter that they are experiencing warrants it. And they each have a token that they can spend. And the token actually has... Like here on Adventure, it actually has this result. It's the binoculars. And the binoculars are actually represented on the side of the die as well. And so on the other side, you can actually see that on Adventure, the special ability is Valor. And take a +1 star token and re-roll the die. Explain where this extra courage comes from. And this is what I mean by explain why. You don't ever play this game in a way that like you roll the die and it just happens. You have to actually explain, what you just did. Why were you brave? Why are you getting this +1 token? And that +1 token is this right over here. You can see it says a -1 or a +1. And that's just a temporary modifier that will affect whatever situation you're in at that time. It's both good luck or bad luck, if you will. And it's all part of the story, so like if you got trapped in a bunch of spider webs and you're all sticky now and you have a -1, you explain how that happens. And it kind of adds to the story and it makes it fun, right? You can't always succeed and do everything perfectly or what have you. So each person gets that and they get a die. And then there's these other tokens over here. These 2 different dice over here, this is the treasure die. You will roll that when the game tells you to roll the treasure die. There's lots of different reasons why you would roll that. You will get treasures of both the normal kind, which is this little backpack. It's kind of a neat little card, and epic treasures, which is kind of like this weird lock on some sort of ancient box, if you will. The black die is the search die, and then encounters will tell you to roll that die for certain encounters or when you have to search an area, and then depending on what you roll, something will happen. I'll explain that in just a little bit as well. So I've already set up this deck, and this deck is made up of 2 different kinds of cards. Since we're doing the Hillside Caves, you can see it says the Hillside Caves there. There's like different stories. You don't always do the Hillside Caves. There's other things as well. So that's the first thing. That's the entrance to the Hillside Caves. And you'll see that this deck over here is also the Hillside Caves deck. I've taken cards from this and put those in there along with the path. The path is the path of adventure. So you're kind of combining these 2 types of cards in there along with one of the 2 boss creatures that are in the Hillside Caves, and you pick that randomly, and then that one's going to be the last card in the deck. Well, actually, the second to last. The last is concluding the adventure. But you keep the other ones out because of the fact that there are times when you'll have to. The game will tell you to draw one of the other cards, if you will. The home card here is like when you get defeated in some way in the game, you aren't killed. You're a kid. You're sent home. You have to go run home and for dinner, or maybe you got a scrape, so you're gonna race home and you're gonna get a Band-Aid, so if you have to go home because you get defeated in an encounter, you miss a turn. And so that's the whole thing. You ran off to go do something at home. Maybe like you need to go and like put your pillows in your bed to make it look like you're sleeping, so your parents don't figure out you're gone. But then you come racing back. So there's always a reason why you have to do that. If for some reason every single one of the siblings end up being at home at the same time, the adventure is over. And that is how you lose, because you all went home and you weren't able to figure out what exactly happened. So, there's also one other card that's in that deck, and it's called the Big Secret. And when the Big Secret card is revealed, the person that reveals it gets to find out what monster you're chasing after. That's the boss in the Hillside Caves. But he also gives that creature an epic treasure, and also there's a reason for the secret. And so now you have a reason for why you're hunting that down. So you determine whoever is the first player, and on their turn you just take the first card and you flip it over, and it says here, like the Hillside Cave. The Hillside Cave is hidden. Describe how it was discovered and how you entered it. And so the first player is encouraged, and for that matter, every player is going to be encouraged on their turn to describe in detail what happened. Did you follow like a strange rattlesnake or something, and through an old gnarled log, and then you found past the log you found next to an old tree there was this spot in the hill where it looks like there was a cave and you're able to crawl in. You gotta let your mind wander and come up with a crazy idea. Oh, I should mention also that each player does start with one treasure card at the very beginning of the game. So you'll get one randomly, and so the treasure card is just something that you can use to help out with your story time. So marbles, use the marbles to distract the encounter. After you roll your trouble die, you may use this card to re-roll it, and then you must use the new roll. And so but of course, once again, you're encouraged to describe that. If you're fighting something, you throw your marbles on the ground, and it slips and falls. Then you get to re-roll. And then depending on what you roll in the next die, if you succeed, maybe you would defeat the monster because it had fallen on the ground, and you were able to tie it up and prevent it from escaping. Or if it didn't work, maybe you slipped on the marbles yourself. But that's another thing that you're going to be doing. You're going to be coming up with this story. And then the next person goes. And so then you take the next card, and you look and it says the path, and it's the story Sphinx. And it says, to appease the Sphinx, each sibling in play order tells one small part of an outlandish story, then rolls their trouble die. Anyone who rolls at least 3 stars draws a treasure card. Anyone who fails takes a -1 star token. No one is sent home. So you can't get sent home over this. So now each person is going to have to tell a story. You found this Sphinx, inside this cave. Why is it there? What is it telling? What it's going to be one small part. And so each person then takes a part of that. And this is where the interactivity of the game comes up. And this is where you're encouraging everybody else to come up with an interesting and fun purpose as to why you're there. And then, of course, then you roll, your die. And it says if you get 3 stars, you get to take treasure. But if you don't, then you have to take a -1 token. So each person would roll, and so Mischief gets 3 stars, so she's going to get a treasure, and so on and so forth. And so then you take the next card, and you see what it says, the path. And now you found a laboratory. It's telling you to roll the search die. So investigate. Roll the search die. And then it says describe an electronic item you find, and you can take a +1 star token. So, you would then roll the search die, and depending on what you see. So, and there's all these different symbols on the search die. And this one, the one that looks kind of like a card, search, follow the instructions on a new path card. So you draw a new path card for this. If you draw that, it's an encounter. You draw a new monster and must resolve the encounter. So you have to draw another Hillside Cave card. If you have this, it is a fear counter. Now, in this case, it wouldn't do anything because we haven't revealed the final boss. And once you reveal the final boss, every time you get a skull action, you have to add a fear counter to the final boss, making them tougher when you actually do get to them. Let me see here. Okay, here, this is an event. You draw a new path card from the unused paths, and then you resolve that. And there's one left. I can't find it, of course. There we go. This little hooded robed guy is the fellow traveler. The player comes across a fellow traveler who must be described. So it can be anything you want. So if it's a laboratory, you could say it's some sort of crazy scientist, that toiling away at some Bunsen burner or whatever. And then the player draws 3 treasure cards, and then you place them face up on the board. And then each player may trade a treasure card that they have for the treasure card that's out there. And if you don't have a treasure card, the player who rolled the search die may select one from the cards of the table. If no player has any treasure cards, I apologize. And then after that, you would discard all of them. So that's kind of neat. You can describe why does this guy have all these crazy items, and why, and you can tell about why you're going to trade him this for that, and you can come up with a reason for why he wants your treasure over the one that's there. And this is all, once again, part of the story. So then the next person will go, and now there's that big secret card. But so here we have And here we have an actual encounter. So it's the Garden Gnome. And it says if you successfully defeat the Garden Gnome, place an epic treasure card on top of the treasure card deck. That would mean, so like, if you got to draw a treasure card, you'd get an epic one. And so the 5 there is how difficult that Garden Gnome is. And so whoever drew it is going to end up having to roll a die to see if they defeat it. So with 2 stars, they're not going to be able to defeat it. Now maybe they have like an item from the treasure deck that will, like, they can add to the story, and it will add like some stars to the story. So maybe they have this shiny stone. And see how it has +1 star there? So you can make up a story that, like, oh well, the Garden Gnome was chasing me and he was gonna capture me and you know hit me with his like stick or something, but I threw the shiny stone on the ground and he got distracted. Enough time for somebody, one of my other siblings, to come and help me. So now you've got 3 stars, and so then you can tell like one of your other people like to step in and try to help out. And so then another one can then go and say, okay, you know, I'll help you, you know, the adventure says, and they're going to step in, and they're going to roll, and then they'd roll a 3, and that would be enough to defeat the Garden Gnome. Now, there is a result on each one of these things that says this. This is an epic fail. And if that happens, they're in danger of being sent home, and you need like somebody else will have to step in, and if they roll an epic fail, then somebody else will have to step in, and so on and so forth. And that's how you can actually have a situation where, you know, one particular encounter will then, you know, cause you to lose your story, if you will. So now the next thing is, okay, so whoever draws the big secret draws a big secret. They draw an epic treasure, and they reach down and they find the big bad boss. And here's the big bad boss. So you can see it's a boss card because it's got the skull on it. And so we turn them all over, and so we see we have a dark troll. And the dark troll gains +1 star for every fear counter it possesses. So now whenever we get a +1 fear, we're going to put the fear tokens above the deck, so we know how many fear tokens he has. And then, if we describe how light and darkness affect the troll, you can reduce the star rating by 1. It's an important note. So, okay, so the epic treasure is, he's guarding a spyglass, but it's an old library book. You found out how this place exists and the secrets from an old library book. So you draw an epic treasure and pull the final boss from the adventure deck, tie these 3 cards together and reveal the secret story behind your adventure. Then reveal all 3 cards to your siblings. So you could say, well, who uses a spyglass? Maybe pirates, right? So maybe just off the cuff here, you can say that, you read in an old library book that there was a evil pirate that betrayed all of his crew and sank them in a ship to keep all the treasure to himself. And but they cursed him, and he became an evil dark troll. And he still has the spyglass from when he was the evil pirate king. But he can't go out in the light because it hurts him or whatever. So you come up with a story. I mean, that isn't the best story possible, but that's something I just came up with off the top of my head. And so you're going to go ahead, and it says replace the boss. Adding the fear counter, slide the epic treasure under it. So we're going to go ahead basically, so the epic treasure goes like this, and then we have the secret. So we know what the secret story is with the library card. We're going to go ahead and put the boss back under like that, and then we take 1 fear counter and we put it over there. And so now we know who the boss is, and we know what we're looking for, and maybe a hint is how we can defeat it. And so you go through the rest of the story line, and you keep going through the cards until, and I'm kind of speeding up here obviously, you finally get back to the boss. And maybe we've added a bunch, in the meantime we've added a few more skull tokens, as we've gone through. And so now we have, a troll has 7. And then we give a bonus of, we got 5 more tokens, that's 12. But because of the fact that we were playing with a 4-player game, you actually add another 9 to the power of the troll. And so he's going to have a 21 strength. And so now what every one of you is going to have treasures at this point. Every one of you is going to have ways to help out. And hopefully you've kind of saved your tokens so they're really powerful when you get to the final end, because that allows you to automatically pick, you know, that one result, and that can really help out a great deal with your particular things. So, like, I think there's one person who has a slingshot, if I remember correctly. No, that's not the one. Well, there's oh no, it's an item that's a slingshot, but you can, I think it's risky. Like, you can here, danger. You can take 3 stars or take +1 star token, reroll your die. If you roll an epic fail on the reroll, you must go home immediately, describe the huge risk you took and the results. But if you have that saved, you can just take 3 stars, an automatic 3 stars, and then, like, if that's what you needed to defeat the troll. And so you have those special abilities that allow you to, if you saved it, you know, and you didn't have to use it up earlier on in the adventure, then you can use it then. And if you can defeat the troll at the very end, or whatever the boss monster is, if you defeat it, then you have the final end, the journey home. So you've almost completed the adventure. You describe the journey back home, tying up all the loose ends, the extra details, and so forth. And then along the way, each player should describe picking up 1 treasure or epic treasure that has been used over the course of the journey to take home to hide for their next adventure together. So you basically, then you have a continuing story. And so then you've taken that 1 treasure home with you, and, you know, that, why is that one going to be important to you? Why is it going to be important to you to, like, with your next adventure that you're going to go on? And with your next adventure, you can go to, like, the abandoned junkyard, or Mystic Waters, or the ancient forest. And so, you know, and there's all these different stories, and you never really get through all of the cards either. And so you can have, like, a nice continuing storyline for your siblings, if you are. And you don't have to use those particular 4 siblings. You can go ahead and replace them with just, like, yourself, if you will. When my daughter and I have played this together, and I should mention that if you do play the game 2 players, 3 players, the creature gets a +5. The boss monster gets a +5 stars at the end. But with 2 players, you actually have this lucky shamrock thing that allows you to like, prevent an epic fail. Because with 2 players, it's kind of easy to get knocked out if you have one bad encounter. But as I was saying, with the 2-player game, you can make your own. As I said, you can make your own characters. You have these blank cards, and you can actually just make up your own particular character. And so when my daughter and I have played, we've actually made up a storyline with just me and Rylan actually going on these adventures together. And you can kind of personalize a little bit, which I think is pretty cool as well. And that's the way I've played mostly, actually. So I really like this game just for the creativity and the fun and the presentation and the look and you know, everything about it. And it has given me a ton of really, really special moments of playing this game with my family, which I appreciate a great deal. But let me tell you more about that in my conclusion. Alright, thank you very much for watching that. I appreciate you getting through the mechanisms of the game, if you will. Now, I mentioned several times that I've been playing this with my daughter or playing with my family. And, you know, my son is he's too young to really understand it. He's 3. But my daughter is 7, and she loves reading about ghosts. She loves playing Dungeons and Dragons, and she enjoys the mysteries of the world, like, you know, like things about Loch Ness Monster or Bigfoot or whatever, and it's fun, you know, watching her crazy imagination go. So when I played this game with her and I explained how it works, she was tentative at first. I mean, she didn't want to, like, screw things up. She didn't want to make a bad story. So I purposely kind of made my story kind of goofy, you know, and kind of silly, and then she kind of caught on to that. And then, you know, it was one of those things where it's like, oh, well, you know, we had a situation where we ran into a giant spider, or a gnarly spider, I think it was called. And I think I like had a stick, and I treated it like it was like a big puppy. and I got it to play fetch with me or something, and which, you know, it's just goofy, and it wouldn't really make sense. You know, I should have taken the stick and bashed it over the head, right? But no, I wanted to kind of like go against the grain and do something. And my daughter caught on to that, and then she giggled about it. And then when she got her next thing, you know, she got to tell the story about, you know, some crazy old coot living in the cave, and you know, and dealing with him, and like kind of came up with a story about that guy. And then, you know, so we kind of went back and forth like that. And, you know, it was fun because of the fact that at the very end of the game, which we ended up losing actually, but at the very end of the game, we had made up a story of this dad, me, and his daughter, my daughter, who had gone on this adventure in this old junkyard and tried to figure out what was going on. You know, and we had come up with a story, and we come up with a spooky little ghost or whatever that was there, and it was you know, it was a fun experience. And it was something that, like, the next day, she actually mentioned and brought it up to me, and she was like, we should really play that game again, because she had already come up with all these other ideas. Like, I had gone to work and sat in front of a spreadsheet, and okay, add X to 9 and something, and go, okay, oh, this formula isn't working. But she went to school, and she sat there and just scribbled out all these ideas on all of her work papers on the back of each one of her Spanish worksheets. She sat there, and then she came home and she showed all these to me, and she's like, oh, we should have done this, or I should have used, you know, the stuff in my backpack and done that with this, and she was telling me about all these different cool ideas. And of course, you know, I sat down and played the game with her again. So it is a hit, a bona fide hit with my daughter, and if nothing else, I would get it for that reason alone. But I did say, okay, I knew my daughter would love it, I knew she would dig it, I knew I would like it for that reason, but I gotta play with an actual gaming group as well. So I actually played this one with some members of my Bizarro gaming group, and it takes a while. You know, and I don't mean to be philosophical here, but it does take a little bit for adults to shed that weird and horrible social anchor that we have, where we're like, oh, I can't act goofy in front of these people, you know, oh, they're gonna say something weird about me, you know, and it's unfortunate, you know, because, I mean, yeah, being an adult and being serious has its place and its function, because of the fact that there's a certain expectation. But when you're sitting down to play a board game, you should be able to shed that, and you should be able to, you know, allow your inner child, so to speak, to run free. But so once we got to the point where we were able to do that, and we were able to just not be worried about, you know, saying something weird that somebody was going to make fun of you for or anything like that, we were actually able to really enjoy it as well as adults, and coming up with this goofball story, and then cheering for good dice rolls, or, you know, cheering for like the creative use of a treasure or what have you, and we actually had a lot of fun with it. And no surprise, it's the same people that I have a lot of fun with when I play a game like Agents of Smersh or Tales of Arabian Nights. Those are the same people of my gaming group, because we all have large gaming groups, and we know there's certain games that work with certain people. But those people that I played with at that time, like, really took to the game, and took to the imagination part of it, and took to the story of it as well. So, will I play this game mostly with my daughter? Yes. But will it get busted out with my gaming group from time to time again? Yeah, definitely. Especially when we just want to be able to play a game and not really worry about winning or losing, but just worry about the experience of playing the game as well. But I really can't wait until I get to play this with my daughter again. So, there you go. That is the Siblings Trouble. This is probably, right now, close to, if not the most fun I've had playing a game all year. Mostly because of my experiences with my daughter, and maybe I'm an old softy for saying that, but I am really, really happy this game exists because of the fun that I've had with her. So there you go. If you have any questions about the game, please ask away. I'd love to hear. Those, and I'd love to answer those to the best of my ability. As always, I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this. And until next time, you have yourself one heck of an awesome day. All right, bye-bye.